Hello, Melinda, and thank you so much for spending a little time with us in your warm living room. Even though we are in front of a large audience, we women know how to make anything intimate. So thank you very much for this intimate moment.
I'm glad we could do this, Diane.
Thank you. You have been one of the most formidable philanthropists of all times, and I have known and admired you forever. But it's only after I read your book that I discovered your passion and path towards helping women. Was writing this book a revelation for you?
It was because I think, well, you've written a book. I think, and when you write a book, you have to really reflect, right? And you decide what goes in and what goes out. But as I reflected on the 20 years of travel that I've been lucky enough to do for the foundation, I started to realize these incredible stories I'd heard from women really animated my life and animated the work that I did. And it's what made me decide to become more of a global advocate for women, because we need to elevate their voices on the world stage if we're going to create change. So it was quite a moment for me of doing that book, of realizing what my role had become.
Yeah, you could really find that when reading your book. We all know that this current moment of the pandemic has been the worst and the biggest toll on women. Can you talk about it, and what can we do about it?
Yeah, the pandemic has set women back substantially. In fact, the World Economic Forum estimates that, the gender gap, we were going to close it in about 99 years. We're now 135 years away from closing it. And, women have been set back around the world, either in their health, places they were increasing their health and their well-being in many parts of the world, but also set back in terms of jobs. I think that's the biggest thing that we're seeing, that, women came out of the workforce in droves around the world, particularly because of the child care they needed to do, and the elder care during the pandemic. And what men are recovering their jobs. In fact, it's predicted by the end of this year, men will have recovered basically all the jobs they lost during the pandemic. Women will still be behind by millions of jobs because they aren't able to re-enter the workforce.
So what can we do about it?
We can invest in women. We can make sure that all governments have at the center of their policy making women in mind. So, for instance, the World Bank and the IMF are looking at moving more money towards developing nations. We can make sure they center that money and the policy on women-led businesses, on making sure that we close the data gap in gender on digital, so that women, when they have a phone, can save money, can have access to mobile money, can have access to transfer payments from governments. So we can focus on looking at the places where women-led businesses need investment, where there's a digital gap so they can have access to money, and look at their health and well-being. Because if you don't look at the health and well-being, and you don't continue to invest in things like contraceptives, girls will fall out of school, and millions of girls have fallen out of school. So we need good policy at those levels.
So basically what you're saying is that to work for women or towards women's empowerment and advancement is more important than ever.
Absolutely. And it's not this side issue or this nice to do issue. If we're going to have a full economic recovery, you've got to put women at the center, women and girls.
I completely agree. Then I'll go to the other question. I think this is actually a moment in history where it's a call for action for women to be warriors. Now, if you were a general, and in the sense you are a general, what would you order us to do?
I would order us to use our voice in every single place in the world, in every forum, whether it's in your community, whether it's in your home, whether it's at the highest levels of government, to use our voices to create change. And one of the things that creates change is money. When you invest in women economically, they lift themselves up, their families up, their communities and whole societies. And so I would tell every single woman and every single man that's for making sure a woman gets empowered to use their voice right now.
Very good. This is good. This is good. I wanted an order. We all know that being in charge is not an aggressive statement, but it's really owning who we are. And you yourself in your book, you said, my best self is not my polished self. So what's your advice for women to be in charge?
My advice is just be yourself. Be your authentic self. And that self is messy some days. That self is more confident some days. That self is dealing with everything that we deal with in life. But be yourself. And when you bring your authentic self and your voice to issues, you make it okay for other women to bring their full selves and lives and voice to issues. And I think that's vitally important.
Great. I got it all out of you. Fantastic. I think you have something near you.
Oh, I do.
You got an object? All right. So here is the DVF Award. So it is a great honor and privilege to thank you for your immense work, for your inspiration, for your leadership by giving you this Lifetime DVF Award. And Melinda, you are a role model. You are a general. And what you told us today was a good lesson. And thank you, thank you, thank you. And I love you.
Thank you for this award. I really appreciate it, especially on behalf of everything we can do, Diane, for other women. So thank you.
Thank you. God bless.